Press X the podcast here. It's episode 7.3 of season 7. Did we actually come up with something that was not the gaming, or is it the gaming?
We did come up with something. Now I can't remember what it was.
It's so memorable that we can't recall exactly.
It sounds like it's still the gaming.
Yeah. Oh shit.
I mean, feel free to chime in with a better idea, but also, what if it's just the gaming?
Yeah, I know, because we now have the Press X to podcast scale. 7, less than 7, hundo. So I think that this was like the lucky number 7 season.
Lucky 7.
Yeah.
Let's try that again. Hey everybody, welcome to Press X the podcast. It's lucky season number 7, episode 3. With your friends Paul, Rhett, and James, crushing it week after week after week right here on Twitch, on YouTube, on podcast services around the world. The best podcast you will ever listen to, my friends. Welcome. James, how are you this fine week?
Just so good and busy. Really busy, but also in between being busy, good.
Busy for unmentionable reasons that we cannot talk about for any reason whatsoever. Stay tuned. Weeks in future, we'll have more to say.
Yeah, I will have many things to say about some shit, but that day is not today, unfortunately.
It is not. It is not. This is February 8th, 2024. By the way, thanks for riding with us.
Yeah.
Thanks for vibing with us. Rhett, how are you, my friend?
Doing excellent. Having just blasted through 12 solid hours of Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. I'm feeling real good. Real good.
Okay. I'm not sure I believe you, but hey, we'll get into that. This is the podcast. This is a podcast about the video games. Sometimes other stuff too. We talk about things. Really, there's no plan. We just talk about video games. And hey, if other stuff comes up, so be it. Tangents. That's what we do. Mostly it's tangents. The tangential podcast, Press X to podcast. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. So anyways, Rhett, 2 or 3 times since we've hopped onto the call, you have gassed up the squad, and I really cannot tell your level of sincerity, and I need you once and for all, Rhett, to come in, give it to us clean. What the fuck is up with this game?
Yeah, why don't y'all believe me? It's Game of the Year 2024. Game of the Year.
It isn't.
Rhett, there's been some reports coming in from, I don't want to say everybody, but everybody on Earth that run contrary to your judgment. Now, if you are well and truly ready to ride for this piece of gaming entertainment, why don't you break it down for us? Give us the 5-point play as to why you think Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League is worth even a second of our time.
So yeah, it's not actually that great. The truth of the matter is, it's not actually that great. As expected. In fact, when we signed off last time, I was saying that this is probably going to be the first recipient of the less than 7 reward from Press X to podcast.
Yeah.
And it will be. It will be. But truth be told, not by much. Not by much.
All right. Well, let's break it down. Tell us more. Suicide Squad.
It's not terrible. It's not the worst thing I've ever played.
Okay, that's faint praise, but praise nonetheless.
It's not the worst thing I've ever played. It's not like I was going into it expecting to barely be able to get through it based off of like IGN's review of the game. But it's not terrible. I thought that the story was actually decent. It certainly kept me around long enough, or it kept me wanting more. You know, I wanted to see what happened next, and I think that it had some pretty interesting story beats. There was some stuff that I didn't expect to happen that happened, and it, yeah, overall, I don't know, it's pretty competent storytelling if you ask me. Also, it's a really good looking game.
Yeah,
It's
you've touched on a couple of points that I feel have actually been echoed by professionals and consumers alike.
yeah.
That I've heard again, like you said, that the story is pretty decent and that it looks awesome.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's good. It's good that we've got some.
Yeah, some of the facial animations in the cutscenes, well, most of the facial animations in the cutscenes are like superb. They're very, very good.
Yeah.
Especially on Harley. It seems like obviously Deadshot is his face is covered up for a lot of the game. King Shark, you're not going to get the same sort of
Is a
nuance.
shark.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
shark, right? But yeah, you really see the power of the engine when Harley's conversing a lot of the time. It was actually pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. So those were the two things that I think stood out to me as positives with the game, but it's not like, as a live service game, I don't know how they're ever going to actually keep people playing this thing.
Okay.
And
All right.
the reason for that is that 30 minutes into it, you've seen pretty much everything the game has to offer. Uh, every single mission, from the very start to the very end, whether it was, you know, a menial side task or a boss fight, every single mission feels the exact same.
Oh no.
Yeah. The gunplay is actually decent, you know? It's a lot more chaotic and frantic, and there's a lot more stuff that you can do with it as opposed to something like Fortnite. I think it actually resembles Borderlands a bit more than it does Fortnite. Not as good as Borderlands.
Those are some damning words.
I know.
In my
I'm a
opinion.
Borderlands guy. Not as good as Borderlands.
Like, it's not a high bar. They failed to clear it. That doesn't
Yeah.
sound good.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the moment-to-moment gameplay. It's actually not terrible, but it's incredibly repetitive. The big issue, though, I think the big opportunity that they missed out on was that they had 4 fairly unique characters that they could have really made to feel like their own, and every one of them plays the exact same. Every one of them feels the exact same. They all use guns. They're all essentially interchangeable. You know, it really doesn't matter who you play as. What it boils down to, who you'll inevitably end up picking, it's going to boil down to whose method of traversal you prefer. That's really the only thing that actually differentiates the characters. So I felt like that was a big missed opportunity. You know, it shouldn't feel the exact same to play as King Shark as it does Harley, but it does.
Yeah.
Sure, there may be a couple unique moves here and there, like they're just like in the Batman games, you can eventually unlock like finishing moves essentially. So of course those are going to be unique to the characters, but that does nothing to actually make it feel like you're playing as a different character. Then another thing is that they allow you to change between characters, but you're extremely limited in when you can. So even if you do want to play as someone specific, oftentimes you'll get into a mission and it'll be like, okay, well, this mission, Boomerang is like hyped up for it, I think is the term they used. So it's like Boomerang's going to get extra damage, extra XP, etc. from if you play as him during this mission. So they do kind of pigeonhole you into playing a certain character throughout each mission. But the problem is that if you go ahead and start that mission, you can't change characters during missions, which seems to me like a huge oversight. But yeah, if like last night during the final boss, I wanted to switch characters and I couldn't do it. So you can do it if you quit the mission and restart from the beginning. Yeah.
No.
But yeah, it's just like little things like that that kept popping up where I'm like, man, this really feels like a missed opportunity here. You know, this really feels like they had a game where they should have been able to implement 50 different ideas and they only squeezed 2 of them into it. And they tried to make an entire game based off of 2 ideas.
Leak.
Yeah, it's
So question. Can you play co-op and have like 3 of your buddies playing the other 3 characters? Okay, that makes no sense that why you wouldn't be able to switch characters in that case.
Yeah, I mean, you're graded after each mission. And each character, like that's how you get loot, is basically you complete a mission and then you're rewarded with something. It's not like you complete a mission, get to the end of it, and open a chest to get a random piece of loot. It's like once your mission is complete, you get a specific piece of gear, often pertaining to the character that you actually played as. So I wonder if maybe that has something to do with it.
It sounds to me like it's geared for co-op to the point where like that's the reason you can't switch characters, because it's like, well, no, because those 3 slots are going to be taken up by other players. So you can't just swap out because that would fuck up our whole co-op thing. And obviously nobody's going to play this solo because reasons, I guess.
Who would
Fuck
do
you.
that?
I don't know.
I would imagine, as any other game, I'm sure I would have enjoyed it more if I did have people to play it with. But yeah, you know, it's not like I felt like I was punished for playing solo. Although not being able to change between characters, if that is the reason, not being able to change between characters really did sting. It did sting, you know.
You'd think it would be possible, even if it is expecting you to play 4-player co-op. The game's balanced to have all 4 quote unquote heroes playing at the same time. You'd think you should be able to, and honestly, that would make it way more fun if you could snap as a single player between all 4 of them if you wanted to.
Yeah. Because you could do that in Gotham Knights, right? Couldn't you switch whenever you liked?
Yeah.
So
that's got a sting. It's like the other Batman game made by like the slightly different team and under the same umbrella could manage to pull something off that you can't.
Yeah.
That is a good question. Is this better than Gotham Knights?
I think it is.
Okay.
I do think it is. Yeah. It's got its issues, but I think it's better than Gotham Knights. Is it better than the Avengers? Because I think the Avengers is actually a better comparison for it. Is it better than the Avengers? I'm not convinced. It is. And the Avengers wasn't great. It wasn't great. I absolutely think that the trajectory of this game is going to follow the same path that Avengers did. It's going to start out, it'll peak probably sometime around launch, and then it's going to be on a slow decline until eventually Rocksteady's like, yeah, we're shutting it down.
What really hurts my soul is that the components of a great game, some of the components of a great game are here. Great animation, cool characters, the gunplay's not bad. Who's going to take the heat for this game not performing? It's going to be the developer. In Rocksteady, they're going to get shredded for this and for the Metascore. But really, it was WB who told them to do this. You have to imagine that this was not the game they wanted to make.
No.
It's the game.
It would have been,
they were forced to make to take advantage of this games as a service, gear score kind of environment. That's such a bummer.
Battle Pass, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, absolutely.
Gear score is a fucking plague upon the industry.
Yo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, which is another thing about the game is that like the gear scores and everything. At the start of the game, it was nice to get higher level gear, but definitely by like the midway point, I had gear that I would be finishing missions and I'd be getting new stuff and I wouldn't be replacing what I had. And by the halfway point, what I had unlocked was plenty to carry me through the rest of the game. So that never felt like it really mattered. Also, the skill trees are whack. Whack. Yeah, like they're
All right.
nothing in them like was getting me excited about leveling up these characters and unlocking new skills. It's just like minor little bonuses to what you could do, you know. Oh, you get a 15% increase to your melee damage, but your melee cooldown is affected by that, and just like stuff like that just didn't get me excited. Like I said, you know, it just didn't get me invested in the skill trees at all. And I always say, like, if your skill tree sucks, your game probably sucks.
Yeah.
Big shout outs to Kevin Conroy though. Big shout outs to Kevin
His
Conroy.
well, I guess not his final performance, but maybe his final appearance given when this game came out.
Yeah, there's a really touching tribute to Kevin after the credits roll.
Oh,
it was beautiful.
classy.
Awesome.
Might have been the best part of the game. Yeah. And he killed it. Of course he did, but he killed it all throughout, you know. Playing Batman, but under the control of Brainiac, he added like a little extra, like, sort of gruffness.
Yeah, a little dirt.
A little dirt. Yeah, it was like a little darkness to the voice that really came across like super, super well. Yeah, he was a highlight of the game for sure. Yeah.
Another question. You got to the end of the campaign, the end of the story.
Yeah.
This is a game as a service. Where
Yeah.
do they go from here? Like,
So
did the threads get tied up at the end of the game in a way that there's like they're going to have to really think outside the box to give you something to do?
should we drop some spoilers? Can't imagine you two are gonna.
The spoilers in the title of the game.
Right.
You know.
Very true.
But spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heads up.
So the way it works is you do kill the Justice League.
Okay, sure. Yeah, as advertised. All right.
As advertised.
Yep.
Yeah. Which actually surprised me. Like I was like, okay, no, they're gonna like capture them and then like, you know, they'll turn into a item and float away or something. You know? Yeah, exactly. But no, man, there's a couple parts like Harley fucking straight up executes Batman. Straight up, point blank, boom! Like it's crazy. So there's some good stuff like that happens. There's a wicked scene between Superman and Wonder Woman where they're like fighting all over Metropolis. Good shit. It's all going down, and then fucking you think like Wonder Woman has him, but she doesn't, and Superman just cooks her with the heat vision. He just cooks her, man. It was pretty good. Turns her into a fucking pile of ash. So how it's gonna work after though is that you obviously the final boss is Brainiac after you take care of Supes, Batman, Flash, and Green Lantern. Then you go on to fight the Brainiac. But it's determined that there are in fact 13 Brainiacs spread throughout alternate realms. So you fight the first Brainiac and the credits roll after you do that. And now, which by the way, the first Brainiac is like a Brainiac Flash, like hybrid. So how it's going to work is over the course of, I don't know, however, 12 DLC releases or whatever, you're going to fight 12 more Brainiacs. All what we're assuming will be with different variations added to them from the Justice League. So you'll fight a Batman Brainiac, a Superman Brainiac. I would assume probably that we're going to get a Wonder Woman Brainiac, which would be cool because Wonder Woman was never a villain throughout the game. And there are other Justice League characters that don't appear, such as Martian Manhunter, who I'm hoping actually get a little bit of screen time as possibly, a Brainiac version. But yeah, that's where they're going with this right now. That's what you have to look forward to, is 12 of what I would assume are very, very similar boss fights.
Okay.
I cannot imagine that the boss fights are going to be much different from each other. If they are, kudos to them. That'd be great.
Well, I mean, they've got time to DLC releases. They're not going to do this, come out to like 5s and 6s in the Metascore, and they'd be like, well, we should just keep doing the same thing, right? Like, obviously.
I mean, that's a good point. But like, I don't know if I have a lot of confidence in that. Going back to what I first said about how the game is unbelievably repetitive from the first half an hour to the final half hour. It's unbelievable how repetitive it is.
That's a serious problem.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to what I was saying about how the characters, there's no differentiation between the characters. So in what could have at least, created a little bit of replayability, if playing as King Shark felt way different than playing as Boomerang, maybe, you go through the campaign again, or you want to go through the campaign with friends as different characters, things like that. But like, I couldn't give a fuck. If I had a friend who was like, yo, come help me beat the campaign, I'd be like, man, no, I'm not doing it again.
Forget it.
Yeah. I do recommend though, like, if y'all could ever, like, I'm sure it'll happen, if you could just find like a YouTube compilation of all the cutscenes, that's probably the way to enjoy the game.
Oh,
skip all the gameplay and just watch all the cutscenes, because it's actually, like, if you're a fan of superhero stuff, it's pretty cool. Some pretty cool stuff happens.
This hurts me so bad because it just shows where the talent is. That's always what was most striking about the Arkham series, is just the storytelling of Rocksteady. They really knew how to do that shit, and it's still here, obviously, but just wrapped in repetitive nonsense.
One of the best parts of the game is early on, you go through an Arkham museum, and it actually takes you through the events of the 3 Batman games. Not Origins, obviously, but the 3 Rocksteady Batman games.
The 3 canonical Arkham games.
Yeah, exactly. Which, like, during that whole time, I had a big smile on my face. I was like, man, this is actually cool as fuck. You get Jack Ryder, he's like on the fucking intercom, like giving you history of what had happened, and I'm like, oh shit, so this is actually like a sequel to those games. It technically is like a sequel to those games. This is the same Batman that we played as in the Arkham games that we're going up against now. But yeah, the honeymoon quickly wore off. The honeymoon quickly ended. So
okay.
What's the price point Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is worth it at? How deep of a sale do we need to wait for?
I think if you're super interested in it, you probably wouldn't be upset at 50% off.
Okay.
I do think, I just can't imagine that this won't be a PlayStation Plus free game of the month at some point in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So like, if you're like, yeah, whatever, I could take or leave it, just wait until it comes out, because I absolutely think that it's worth the time if it's free. Definitely worth a playthrough if you don't have to pay for it. But yeah, like 50% off at minimum before you start spending cash on it. Yeah. $20-ish. Yeah, in the chat, $20 max, says Jax. Jess says $20. Yeah. I wouldn't be mad at if I spent $20 on this. I wouldn't have been upset. It just blows my mind that this game took more time than those 3 Arkham games combined to develop.
And there, I mean, graphics are just graphics. You know, there's a lot of systems in play that take a lot of time to build, especially if you're building a co-op game.
Yeah.
But there's side by sides where Suicide Squad does not hold up that well compared to the 8-year-old Arkham Knight.
Dude, Arkham Knight continues just to be a fucking force. Woo. Yeah. Game was just so far ahead of its time.
Yeah. Probably my least favorite of those 3 Arkham games, but...
Really? Man, it was my favorite.
Really?
By far,
I'm an Asylum guy, though. I like the first one.
Well, I loved Asylum, yeah. Loved Asylum. But Knight was just like, oh, the Batmobile was so good. James, I know you didn't like the Batmobile in that game.
It just... Rather than it being like a fun thing to rip around in, it's like, here, immediately do these complicated, aggravating tasks using a brand new control system that honestly isn't great already, and like would be like the Batmobile and Knight controls fine if you're not doing anything important with it. But the fact that there's like levels that are like progress gated to you being able to pull off crazy stunts with this stupid fucking car really hurts this game in my eyes. It's just like,
I don't know. I had no problems controlling it whatsoever. I thought that was one of its strengths, was that you could move side to side at a whim, front and back. You know, you could maneuver it wherever you needed it to be.
Like I get that my complaint is not anything like an objective concern with a game. Like, this is just me having a personal issue with these fucked up janky ass vehicle controls. Yeah. But like, just I don't know. It's just like it just felt like it just felt like it was a struggle from the jump to do anything with that fucking car.
Yeah.
And they throw it in your face and are like, listen, it's very important that you use this dumb fucking car instead of the incredibly nuanced, beautiful, perfectly put together hand-to-hand manned combat shit that we've like made into an art form over the course of 3 games. No, fuck all that. Get in the car. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how many times, speaking of the art form that the combat became in those games, I don't know how many times throughout the 11 hours that I played Suicide Squad that I said to the chat on stream, why the fuck did they not just clone the combat system from the Arkham games and put it into this? It was so fucking frustrating.
Well, because it's not designed for 4 people to be mixing it up at once.
I mean, it could be.
I'm sure they tried.
Yeah. Well, it feels like at least you start with that as a basis. You know, it's the industry standard combat after those three Arkham games, and you know, a team with that level of talent, you take that baseline, implement some of the stuff that was put into games like Spider-Man at the point that they're putting this game together, and then try to bolt some ranged combat on top of that. You could have had something really remarkable. But you might be right, James. Maybe they did try that. Like, this, we got to start from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah, Jax in the chat also brings up a good point that he says, I think this game will flop more just because of the microtransactions. Yeah. That is another thing. The microtransactions in this game are shockingly overpriced. It's insulting what they have some of the shit priced at. It's like $8, $7 or $8 Canadian for like a taunt. One taunt.
Oh, they're looking for the whales, man.
Oh man, like it's disrespectful. Like, it's downright disrespectful what they have some of this shit priced at. Yeah, that was like that. I as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, now I see why review codes didn't come out until late. They wanted to keep these fucking micros under
Yeah.
wraps.
Yeah, well, I mean, Warner Brothers doesn't have anything like respect for their consumers, and they never fucking have, and I don't see why they'd start now.
Yeah.
It was just like, these are the same, like, lifeless suckheads that gave us fucking multiverses, which is just like
Yeah.
a fucking microtransaction storefront disguised as a game.
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. I guess I should have been expecting that. Didn't even it didn't even like cross my mind that there would have been microtransactions in this game. But of course
It's like, what
there
the
would
fuck
be.
are they before? What is the point of them?
Oh man, and they're all just so useless. They're so useless. Yeah.
I think there's a bunch of high profile fighting games that have sort of set the tone, right, for like what we can get away with in terms of microtransactions, because you get games like Dead or Alive or Street Fighter that are just like naked greed on like full frontal display at every fucking turn. Like the shit you can pay for in Street Fighter 6 easily dwarfs what you can pay for the fucking base game, and like Dead or Alive is not better.
Oh yeah. Like
And,
quick too. Like it'll take you a few purchases to outmatch the price of the game.
Yeah, and so like companies see that shit and they're like, I want some of that for me. I want some of that greasy money in my fucking pockets. So they like, somebody pointed out that we've come such a long way since the like halcyon days of the horse armor from back in like 2006.
Ugh.
Where it's just like
the horse armor.
Yeah, which was like
Patient X.
Yeah, which was like $3, by the way. And back then, people were like, $3 for horse armor? That's fucking egregious. And now it's like $8 to make your character do a gesture that nobody gives a shit about.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
James, I particularly like how you squeezed both naked and full frontal into the same statement about fighting game DLC. That was peak. Just primo.
Well, I mean, it's so disgusting. I don't know if you guys have like perused that for any recent fighting game. I know it was really, really bad in Street Fighter 5, and I feel like it's as bad, if not worse, than number 6. You know, if somebody comes in and corrects me afterwards, great. I would love for Capcom to have fucking reeled back a little bit on the throttle, but they didn't.
Yeah. No, I've been through the DLC with Street Fighter 5, and it's staggering.
Gross.
It's astounding. Page after page after page of costumes and stages, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Disguise is bad for that because they'll lock extra characters behind DLC, and they'll have like, some of them will have shit that like dramatically changes how the game is played. Like, they're not just cosmetic. It's like, oh, if you have this character, you can like do X thing with like, in terms of like abilities or something, and it's great, but it costs you like this many dollars, and yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, Jax asks, DLCs used to cost $5. Why the hell is everything now just 20 and up? Because people will pay for it.
Yeah.
Because people fucking pay it.
Yeah.
Basically, what happens is you get like people like us, crazy assholes who like buy and play a game every calendar month or more. Okay, we're not the target audience. What they're looking for is the people who dip into the market 1 to 3 times a year, and they have like, this is my game that I'm playing this season or for this half of 2024, and so they're gonna put a whole bunch of money into DLC and shit because it's like, this is one of the 4 games that I played this year, and so I want to maximize my time with it. Those are the people that they're looking for. I think Call of Duty really demonstrated that, like, yes, this kind of gamer exists. They have an Xbox for one reason, and it is to get the new Call of Duty game every year.
Yeah.
And so those guys are like prime fucking targets for any sort of expansions you want to add on.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to shift gears and talk about a DLC that absolutely pays for itself, because I finally unlocked Phantom Liberty in Cyberpunk.
Yes.
And it is fucking awesome.
Yes.
It is so good.
Yeah, is it not the best, like the best story content in the entire game?
Absolutely. Not even close.
Yeah.
I'm stunned at the quality, like even from when you kick off the first couple of missions as it's an awesome thrill ride through Dogtown. And Dogtown is not that big, but they pack a lot into that area, and they give you a lot to do in the first couple of missions where you're, trying to make your initial escape from the inciting incident, let's put it that way, is so good. They introduce a lot of new mechanics, a lot of new things that I just did not expect in any way. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. And the other thing is, once getting past that and kind of getting into the meat of the content, I think it does a lot better job than the main game of giving you interesting things to make choices about. Moment to moment, they give you a lot of in the moment, you need to choose A or B. Are you going to unplug this person? Yes or no? The bar's going down. And those choices have a lot of consequence and feel like they have a lot of meaning in the moment. And it makes you feel a lot more like you are V than the main game or the main story anyways. There's a lot of side content in the main story that does that as well. But I feel like it's so much more prominent in Phantom Liberty, and Idris Elba is fantastic.
So good.
He is excellent in this.
Yeah.
It's if you haven't touched Phantom Liberty, you do have to play quite a bit of Cyberpunk, but it's good now.
Yeah.
And man, it's really something. I'm really, really enjoying it.
Man, how far we've come. It seems like just yesterday you were reviewing Cyberpunk.
Definitely less than a 7 at launch.
Holy fuck. Talk about one of the great redemption arcs in gaming.
Yeah, maybe after my big February project, I'll fucking finally pick that one up.
Yeah. Highly recommended. Did you agree that, man, Idris Elba just dwarfs Keanu Reeves?
Oh my god, it's not close.
It's insane how much better he is,
There is a fair bit of Johnny Silverhand in the Phantom Liberty story as well. And I think for Keanu, he does an okay job with what he's supposed to be doing. He fills his role, but Idris Elba, when he is taking the main stage or he's monologuing or he's conducting something that's going on in the story, it's gripping.
Yeah.
You're paying absolute attention. There's no looking around the room or trying to see what else is going on when Idris is doing his thing. Like you might when you're listening to Johnny Silverhand, you're like, what's he saying? It's an intentionally short sentence so that Keanu's just got a few words here and there.
Yeah.
Well, Jesus, Idris Elba's on a whole nother level just in terms of as a performer than Keanu Reeves. Like Keanu Reeves is an expertly crafted sleeve of sorts that viewers and players can kind of slot themselves into to be like, yes, that's the main character I want to inhabit and see myself in whatever the media is. Like, and he's really good at that role. But that's not the same thing as being a charismatic, engaging performer. He's sort of a, like, you know what I mean? Like he's more of a like protagonist, like video games have protagonists. But Idris Elba is like a fucking gravity event, localized. It sort of like appears on screen, and you're like, well, fuck, this is my whole day now.
Oh yeah.
And what we're looking at in the video here, this is the first mission. It is so fucking cool. Man, Definitely playing this all the way through to the end. And especially starting a new character and playing through some of Cyberpunk to get to Phantom Liberty. The way it's weaving the missions together, where you're kind of bouncing back and forth between stuff from Phantom Liberty, both main quest and side quests, with the things that were already cool from the first game that are now made better by the mechanics being better. Very good. Very, very good. And glad to see this redemption arc from CD Projekt Red. You know, they were let down by their marketing, they were let down by their release schedule, but they are still a top tier developer, one of the best for Western RPG content. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's been a real treat to see how far this game's come along.
It also looks significantly better in Phantom Liberty. Like I noticed that right away, having played through quite a bit of the main game, especially the main thing you see that's different is Johnny Silverhand. Like that character model is a lot more Keanu in Phantom Liberty than it is in the main game, and Idris Elba is like pixel perfect to real life.
Yeah,
the animation is top quality. Good stuff, man.
Hell yeah, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's great. James, I don't think you can talk about what you've been playing.
No, not even a little bit.
Okay.
Not even the tiniest fucking bit.
Yeah, not even the tip. All right, let's not go there.
Yeah, I can have some conversations about my shit in, I believe, 14 days.
All right, so about 7.5. Episode 5.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's say we crack into a little bit of news here.
Sure. What's I know it's kind of just, there's one big story that's sort of like overtaking all the others right now. Well, I mean,
is it
one and a half stories? There's but let's start with the big one. Let's start with Xbox rumblings. Basically, my understanding is that Phil Spencer himself, the face, right? The face of Xbox for all intents and purposes, basically went public and said, yeah, there's a greater than zero chance that we go non-console, fully third party at some point in the future. Am I getting that right? Is that roughly what he sort of hinted at? Like, is that what people are extrapolating from this?
Yeah, let me just read his tweet. After weeks of speculation, a lot of leaks, etc., in true Xbox fashion, they were right behind the 8 ball and being super reactive to this. Phil Spencer had to say on February 5th, "We're listening and we hear you. We've been planning a business update event for next week, where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned."
Okay, so basically, kind of like what I said, except not at all in any meaningful way whatsoever. Basically, some leaks happened and they said nothing. They gave us a big, juicy sesame seed nothing burger, and we're expected to chew on that until the following week, where they will probably give us a nothing burger with 2 patties. Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, the text that stands out to me is business update event.
Okay, yeah, that is very...
Business update? That to me says something significant is changing. We are shifting. And this has been hinted not by Phil and not by the Xbox team, but by Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella at, I forget what conference it was a few weeks ago, saying in no unspecific terms that they want to bring games to all platforms. Games to all platforms. And and Xbox has just been quiet about this until these leaks started happening.
Yeah. So basically, part of the leaks has been people seeing games potentially coming out, like Xbox standards coming out for other platforms, like Starfield and shit. Which is sort of a herald of things to come. Okay, speculation aside, let's speculate much harder to a much greater degree than anybody has previously.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay. So never mind what they're gonna fucking announce and be like, oh, we're multi-platforming some things, blah, blah, blah. Do we feel like them pulling a Sega is a good move? And do you think a Game Pass system can work without constraint to a particular platform?
I think if they buy up as much of the industry, if they continue to buy up as much of the industry as they have been, yes, I do think it could work. If everything that they're developing is going to be under that umbrella, and it'll be available on everything. Sure. Will the price increase? Most assuredly. But if everything's going to be on that, on Game Pass, Call of Duty, Elder Scrolls, everything that they make, then yeah, I don't see why not. Especially, I think a lot of people would be excited to get. I think they'd be excited at the notion of getting exclusives that they've never played before on another system. Like, people were going nuts for when Sony finally said, okay, we're going to bring like Gran Turismo to PC.
Yep.
Spider-Man to PC. Horizon, all that stuff. God of War. People were loving that.
I think if they were really bold, they might go one better. I think there's people within Microsoft and Xbox who want to do what Stadia couldn't. And I think they want to go beyond consoles and just be like, do you have a fucking controller and a television? Then friends, you've got an Xbox. And then they're just gonna, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're gonna start shifting the business in subtle but significant ways to the point where it's like, all you have to do is pay your fucking tithing to us every month, and you can have a, like, preposterous amount of games going forward. And, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think they're trying to go beyond consoles, because I say this because they've been doing that for fucking years. For years they've been trying to push for this. Back when we were still going to E3 back in 2019, they were talking about xCloud, and they were so excited because they could put it on phones. You just needed a controller. And I feel like that's the move, because manufacturing consoles, distributing them, is such a logistical fucking nightmare. Because, like, look at the PS5 and how impossible it was to find one for so long. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they're trying to solve this problem where they want as many people paying for games as possible with the fewest hardware impediments between them and the shit they want to engage in. And if that means that, like, there's like an overall leveling out or dip in quality, you know what I mean? Sort of like how Spotify gives you infinite music in exchange for the, like, quality ceiling lowering somewhat. You know what I mean? Like, everything kind of flattens out a little bit in terms of, like, audio quality, but in exchange you get, like, the Library of Alexandria's worth of records at your fingertips. I feel like Xbox wants to do the same thing for games.
I think you're right, but here's the thing. That has not worked.
No,
It is
hasn't.
not working in any way, shape, or form. Games are way too expensive. Developers are way too expensive. The price of Game Pass is way too low, and their subscriber numbers are not increasing over time. They haven't said anything about Game Pass numbers in years, and that is no mistake. They would be shouting it from the rooftops if it was growing. So we can infer that it's not growing and the business is not performing. From that. So
yeah.
Here's what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
Game Pass will continue to exist. They will continue to get Xbox exclusives and those kinds of things day one. What's going to happen is that's going to be timed exclusivity. 6 months, a year, something like that. Xbox exclusives like Starfield, like Indiana Jones, like Gears of War are going to hit other platforms 6 to 12 months after they hit Game Pass. They're going to try to play both sides of the field and get Game Pass more subscribers by having more content, but also sell things full price to people who want to just have a console or have a PC. It's not a bad idea. It's a big shift in the business, though, and they're going to have to message it right because the militant Xbox people out there, if this is what they do, are not going to be pleased.
The Church of Xbox is already pretty miserable about this.
Yeah.
Because what Xbox has done is they've created a sort of parasitic relationship with certain creators because they had this system where they would follow back, like big Xbox creators would follow them, like the big wigs and the official accounts and everything else, and then they would follow them back and they would start like communicating with them and giving them exclusives and like contact and like, you know what I mean, like there is a sort of like two-way street of a relationship. And so there's this whole army of Xbox influencers who feel extra entitled because they've had this access and they've had this sort of sense of closeness with the fucking the console and the company that's sort of like elevated them. And so for this same company to turn around and be like, hey, the game is changing and we're changing with it because venture capitalism is consuming the industry from the inside out. We don't really have a fix for that yet. So we're just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. And a lot of their loyal army is going to be really fucking choked about this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. Xbox and their fans have a highly unusual relationship to
it's not healthy.
Yeah, it's very parasocial in a lot of ways. That, like, there are a lot of people out there who are on the internet all the time and on podcasts and stuff, and I won't say names, who believe that they are best friends with Phil Spencer. Phil Spencer is an executive at Microsoft. Oh. He's not your friend. He's trying to sell you Xboxes.
No.
He's a nice guy, but he's trying to make Xbox win.
Yeah, personally, I think... Personally, I'm really fucking concerned because, like, the amount of layoffs and the amount of churn and the amount of like there's been so many huge, serious shocks to the industry system. And like, I don't know if people really understand that when you demoralize an entire workforce like this, it's going to have a serious negative impact on what gets produced and who decides to stay in the industry and who decides they're just going to be a fucking analyst or go work for a fucking, work as the IT guy for a more stable industry somewhere else. Like, I feel like, because there's people who like moved across the country to be with like Blizzard and Activision and Microsoft, and they got fucking axed, and like thousands of them are getting axed. And like, it seems like every fucking day you go on to your gaming news feed, and one of the first things you see is X amount of people were let go from this company in the last week. And sometimes the number is big and sometimes the number is small, but there's always a number and they're adding up. And I feel like at some point we're going to have a straight up large scale industry collapse to the point where indies are sort of like the only viable career path, which is already not a viable career path. Like, who's going to want to fucking work in video games when the odds of you getting shit canned so some like VC can have like a bigger bonus when the odds are so high? Like, who's going to want to be a part of this fucking industry?
Yeah. I remember when Xbox fans were just so hyped, pumping up the acquisition of Call of Duty, Activision, and all that, and just like, this is great for gaming and everything. I wonder if the 2,000 people that got laid off from Treyarch, Infinity Ward, etc., Blizzard, I wonder if they would agree with you.
Yeah, and this is just going to keep happening. Like you guys were talking about, how, Rocksteady, they're going to get shredded. They're literally going to get shredded.
Yeah.
Like because of the scores and the sales, like expect an announcement sometime in the next financial quarter where like a quarter of their fucking work staff just gets like shown the fucking door. And that's going to become the norm where every time like, we didn't break sales records, so we have to let a third of you go. It's like, yeah, there's not going to be a video games industry in 2 years if you keep this up.
Yeah.
A lot of people out there are trying to say, well, we need more games, that they need to come out more regularly to better fill the coffers of game developers and make sure that the people can be there. I fully believe that's wrong, completely wrong. We need fewer games, way fewer games, but they need to be decent quality where people want to pick them up, people want to stick with them. And for larger developers, larger publishers, that needs to look like an A/B strategy where you've got your A games. Taking Insomniac, for example. You've got your A games, you've got your Spider-Man, you've got Wolverine, you've got Venom, whatever you've got in the pipeline. What fills the gap between there to keep the lights on? What smaller teams can you spin off to make smaller, interesting games that people want to pick up, people want to engage with? And a good example of that kind of thing is the Little Prince of Persia game that Ubisoft came out with.
Yeah.
It's not going to sell a zillion copies, but you don't have to market it very much. I read somewhere that it sold like 300,000 copies at $20. It probably covers what it costs to make, puts a little bit of cash in the bank, and it keeps the lights on. I think that's going to become
well.
And it reviewed very well. It's like by all accounts, it's a good game. So I think you're going to see that a lot more often.
I wonder. I kind of wonder at whether or not we're going to see a trend of big companies hoovering up indie teams, indie developers, because they need people to do exactly what you just described. Put some quality shit out on a semi-regular basis under your publisher banner, keep the lights on, put some money in the coffers. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you're going to spend venture capital on some crazy ideas, the Microsoft model of buying up smaller teams, I don't know if it's the right move, but it feels like a move that the industry would make as a response to that sort of necessary triage where you're like, no, our development cycles are like 7 years long now for AAA games. We need some shit in between or else we're going to shrivel up and blow away in the wind.
Yeah.
But like, either way, I feel like armchair analysts such as ourselves may or may not predict the future, but regardless, the big slumbering beasts that run this fucking industry are making the necessary moves to keep it afloat. Or the VC goblins are just devouring this corpse and picking it fucking clean and leaving, the little people to pick up the mess and figure out if there is an industry at all in 5 years.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think as far as Microsoft goes, they got more money than God. Like, they're the most valuable company on earth at this point. So if anyone has the money to make something work, it's them. So I'll be very curious to see what this announcement is all about and where they're going with this. Because if they can't make this subscription model work, no one can. Period. They've got like 45 developers at this point. If they can't make Xbox Game Pass a viable business, no one can.
Yeah.
And
basically,
the numbers suggest that's the case. It's almost impossible to make a positive, in the black kind of business out of this, just from some of the numbers that have leaked about how much things cost to get onto Game Pass. If you've, like Jax was saying in the chat, if you've got 21 million subscribers at $12 a month or whatever it is, say it's $250 million per month. Games are costing 50 million, 75 million, 100 million to get onto Game Pass. That is not a lot of games per month. And that doesn't count at all the amount it's costing you to build things internally. The numbers do not make sense. They need to be orders of magnitude higher for Game Pass to make sense for Microsoft. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. I was going to say there are so far 2 companies that have made the streaming model kind of work. And the only way they've done it is by making sure that their other lines of business are incredibly lucrative. Amazon has not actually had a successful streaming model, but it doesn't matter because their web services and their shopping shit very easily make them enough money where the streaming service is just a loss leader that they can use to keep their name on everybody's mouth and keep people subscribed to Amazon Prime. And Apple, similarly, are, the largest supplier of phones on the fucking planet. And so if Apple TV Plus loses them a little bit of money, that's fine because it's a level of brand awareness they were previously unable to achieve. You know what I mean? So basically, you sort of have to be a company like Microsoft, Amazon, or Apple that's already making billions and billions of dollars on your other lines of business to the point where the streaming service can be seen as a sort of loss leader type banner you can kind of wave around in the air to get the maximum number of eyes on your fucking IP and your brand.
And then it depends on how you're cooking the books.
Yeah.
As well. Because something like Microsoft, they treat their business units very separately. So you've got your Windows business unit, you've got your Office 365 business unit, you've got your Xbox business unit. Each one of those units is expected to perform. So if the thing you're doing in Xbox isn't working, it's not bringing in the revenue, it's not growing over time, that's not good for Microsoft. That doesn't look good to the shareholders. It doesn't make the stock price go up, yada, yada, yada. Whereas for Amazon, a lot of their stuff is a little more behind the scenes. Yes, they have web services, and yes, it's the biggest, I think, probably the biggest in the world at this point, I'm sure. That's Amazon. Amazon is doing well. It's not AWS is doing well, and Amazon.com is doing well, and Prime is doing well. It's Amazon is doing well. So they're more able to spin cash into the things that are loss leaders, like Prime Video, for example, than something like a Microsoft. That's my view of it anyway. Might be completely wrong. I don't know.
Apple, I feel like there's a good chance they're just in their honeymoon phase where like a new streaming service kicks up and they're like, oh, amazing, we're doing so good, we're getting so many new subscribers, it's the line is never going down, it's just going to go up forever, because like the amount of original content they've put out has exploded exponentially in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And like, guys, I hate to say it, I don't know that you can keep this up unless you're prepared for this to never make money. Which they might be, because again, they're like one of the biggest distributors of phone hardware on Earth, and that shit is not slowing down. Oh, and they just dropped the Apple Vision Pro. And like, you got all these weird little chuds running around the streets performing free advertisement and being like, hey, guess what? You can use this thing on the subway. I mean, obviously don't. That's incredibly unsafe, but you can do it. Or driving a car. Again, Jesus, don't do that, but you can.
I don't
man,
think
how
that, I
many
don't think
people are
that function is long for this world. Like there's going to
No.
be like an accelerometer check of like, you're moving too fast. Please
Yeah.
click this to confirm that you aren't driving for legal reasons.
Using it on the subway? How fast? How many people are gonna get their fucking lights turned out? Doors open, lights out, headsets mine, see ya. Holy fuck.
Yeah, it's just like, no, listen, if you want to take your shit on the go, that's fine. All the power to you. Get after it. But people know that's a $4,000 accessory you're
Yeah.
wandering around with. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Until they implement Superman heat vision that comes out of the goggles,
Yeah.
like you're in danger.
The other thing is like, there's still that Apple headset, it's still so fucking tacky. Like, it's this big fucking pair of ski goggles that you have to strap to your face. You know, I figured Apple would have made something a bit more sleek, you know? Maybe something like just a pair of glasses, but no, it looks like you're fucking wearing
No.
a pair of ski goggles.
We're 5 years away from
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah, I
usually
saw-
you're yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say your first version of the hardware is generally the clunkiest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did see a quick teardown article that someone took this thing apart and they're like, this is a feat of engineering. It's ridiculous what they packed into this thing. Like it could not physically be any smaller at this point. But
Right.
you're right. At some point it will be, you know.
Because it's
Very
not
glasses.
just like a headset. That's a full scale, serious business Apple PC
Yeah.
that you're just like, you just have in your face. Which I feel like people talking shit about this headset don't really realize how obscenely powerful it is for its size and the form of it. Like that's like I can't afford it. I would never do what some of these people are doing with it, aka go out in public with my most expensive computer I've ever purchased, just sort of sitting atop my head while I cannot really defend myself. But like, it's a pretty amazing machine.
Yeah.
I just had a vision in my head, James, of you with that MSI that you're testing strapped to the back of your head.
Just duct
Yeah.
taped.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
It's
that's
like
the equivalent,
7 or 8
basically.
pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just fucking strolling down the sidewalk. Oh man. I like it.
It's preposterous. So yeah, I feel like people have been making fun of it, but I truly believe that Apple has done something significant and that they've like moved the needle forward a great deal to like, hey, this is portable, powerful technology, the likes of which we've never seen. This thing can do shit that your phone probably could scarcely dream of. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh, it's a phone can do that. There's a lot of shit that it can do that your phone simply can't. For one
Jax,
thing.
Jax in the chat asked, do you think you can use it while driving on the highway? Well, Jax, given that you drive 18 wheelers, I'm going to say no. Don't use it while you're driving down the fucking highway.
Please, God, no.
Yeah.
There is video of people in Teslas with the autopilot function engaged,
Oh yeah.
cruising along with their shit on, but like,
Yeah.
you know, doing the gestures, you know, but like you, they're gonna be that vehicle is already. Hey guys, the Cybertruck,
Yeah, but
They're-
like I'll be on
they're-
the news.
their crash test records, their safety testing, none of that shit is made public. Nobody knows how effective this thing is in a crash. People do know that it's made of a sort of solid, difficult steel. It's made of a material meant to be bulletproof, and it is. The windows aren't, obviously. They've tested this several times to hilarious effect. But something so rigid and bulletproof is probably not going to keep you in as good a shape as you'd like in the event of a collision. You really don't want to compound that by putting a fucking VR headset on your head while you drive. Like, you will be the deadest a driver has ever been. I cannot stress this enough.
I don't know, man. It seems like it might actually protect your head. It's like
so?
it's a crash helmet.
Yeah.
I mean,
Protect your eyes from the shrapnel.
It'll maintain the shape of it for like body identification purposes.
Yeah, great. That's
that's the thing. Like people were giving the Cybertruck a lot of shit because like this thing looks so incredibly unsafe. But somebody pointed out that like, well, no, they've done crash testing and safety testing. It's just none of it's made public, and they're not under any obligation to under like U.S. car manufacturing laws. Where it's just like they don't have to tell you how the test went. They performed them.
Yeah.
So we don't know how safe it is.
Yeah.
Because like basically they're required to do crash testing certification in order to make sure that it's safe enough to go on roads. However, there's not like a separate body, like there's not a separate governmental body that does this. They can just hire somebody internally to do this for them. Like Tesla can just be like, all right, we've decided that you're in charge of making sure this vehicle is safe. You work for us, and also please make sure that it passes. And they're like, of course. And then they do. And then it goes on the road. And it has that wedge that is like the wedge shape of the front is like the perfect height and shape for decapitating a child with like a 50-mile-an-hour collision. Like it's almost engineered to kill children at crosswalks.
You may be right.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, anyways, sort of a digression, but like some of this technology needs some further testing before it gets released into the wild, and it's not going to get it.
It's fine. People are testing it for us.
Yeah.
South of the border, that's the only place you can get a Cybertruck and a Vision Pro right now.
Yeah. I will say I'm excited. The Vision Pro excites me because it means that other companies are probably frantically working to try to capture a bit of that market share. You know what I mean? Like, and their shit will be half the cost of Apple's because that's just usually how it goes. I don't want to pay $4,000 for the headset of the future, but like if it's the same strength as a desktop PC, you could sell me on it for like $2,000. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
If you give me a headset that does what this very powerful laptop can do, I'm tempted, right? Like,
yeah. Well, it sounds like it's gonna actually be a fucking game changer for your day-to-day workload. And that's what every fucking manufacturer of a VR headset, aside from like the PSVR, so every fucking manufacturer like touts as one of the key features of their headset is that this is going to change the way you get your day-to-day workload done. And I mean I've tried a lot of them, and not one of them has actually, I think, achieved that. But this one sounds like might be the first step in changing the workplace.
Yeah, it's V1 of the thing that changes the workplace.
Yeah.
well, like it's got pretty good pass through, and so if you can plug a keyboard into it via Bluetooth or whatever, and I can do my fucking job on it, then yeah, sure. You know what? Hook me up. Also, this is important, and I don't know that anybody's talked about this. I haven't done a lot of reading, but I want a headset to be about as intrusive upon my skull as this headset and these glasses. That is about the level that I can handle for 8 hours at a time. That's the important part. You can put the headset on and it feels pretty comfortable, but motherfucker, it is not that comfortable after like 2 hours, generally speaking. But again, maybe there's like consumer reports coming out to the contrary, but like my experience with headsets is generally, I can't wear this all fucking day.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Apparently, the reviews say that the Apple headset is super, super comfortable, but again, I've used a lot of headsets that are supposed to be super comfortable, and inevitably, after an hour and a half, 2 hours of having this thing fucking strapped to your face, it starts to
It's
hurt.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, and this is important, there's no VR porn on the Apple Vision Pro.
I remember seeing you mention this. How?
Yet.
Yet, I know, right? Come on, you got to think.
Come on.
The understanding is that like if you want to do it, it's like some janky third party shit. You got to do a little hacking in order to get it to work.
Wow.
Like what you can do is you can strap on the headset and project a sort of virtual flat screen to watch shit at like 80, 100 inches, whatever, which is, you know, fine by me, right? But like some people want the most unsettling sexual experience they've ever had in their lives, and so they want VR porn. Hey, fun little diversion. If any of you guys ever, you know, out of curiosity, sampled that shit, it's terrifying. It's straight up terrifying. I need you to understand how unsettling it is to have this headset on, and then you have this porn star kind of like crawling around you and in front of you, because basically how they do it is there's cameras strapped to the head of a dude who's lying underneath the girl, right? And so this woman, the image of this woman in like full immersive VR 3D comes down upon you, and like, you know what I mean? Like, just crawls around you, and this woman's face is just right fucking here, just right here. And it's so uncomfortable to be a part of. I don't understand the appeal at all.
I mean, personally, I think it's fantastic. Jax makes a good point in the comments here. He says, so the MetaQuest 3 weighs only 18.2 ounces, whereas the Apple headset is 21 to 22 ounces.
Okay.
And that's interesting, because the MetaQuest is definitely one of those headsets that after an hour and a half, it starts to hurt. It really does. So
it makes me curious how much like a PSVR 2 is.
Yeah, until they can figure out how to actually manufacture these things to fit every fucking type of face, inevitably there are going to be people that have an uncomfortable experience with them.
Yeah. Also, say no to VR porn until it gets 20 times better, because that shit is so deeply upsetting.
I don't know. I think it's kind of wonderful.
Okay, you want the woman to be like half an inch from your face, like making the fuck noises, and you're just like, okay, this is a lot.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me.
Okay, but fair. Have you actually sat down and tried it, Red?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I want to know. I don't want to gorge you. You know, I'm just like, if you've done it and you like it, that's enough.
I have.
That's fine. That's fine.
And I don't regret it.
It's just for me, I found it very, very upsetting.
Yeah.
It was just like, I don't. It turns out I need that barrier of a screen between me and this person. Turns out that's very important to me.
Found it deeply upsetting.
Different strokes for different folks.
Different strokes for different folks. Yes, it's low hanging fruit, but we're going to pluck it regardless.
We're going there.
Yeah.
By the way, PSVR 2 is apparently like halfway between a MetaQuest and an Apple Vision Pro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Interesting.
Well, what do you think? Should we get out of here, fellers?
Yeah, why not?
Adjourn for tonight?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, listening, participating in the chat. It's been a good time in there as well. We appreciate you. we'll be back next week because we're going to be here every week until that's untenable or
till the wheels fall off.
Till the wheels fall off or the apocalypse comes, one or the other.
Yeah, I can talk all fucking night, so I mean we're good on that front.
we're just gonna let her blast as long as you'll let us. So thank you very much. This has been Press X Podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time, right back here for the podcast from the Press X to Podcast. You know what I'm saying. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.